welcome to another episode to the BootzToSuitzPodcast. Hey, today we got another fabulous episode. We have Mr. David Pere of Military to Millionaires, a real estate guru. Man, I'm telling you, this is going to be a good one. I'm telling you. So get your pens, get your pads, take some good notes. He's going to tell you how to go from one source of income to millionaire status real quick. So, well, maybe not quick. Let me take that back. But it could be quick. It depends on how much you want to grind. So, all right. Hey, David, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm glad we kind of caveated there and said, hey, it's not always fast.
Yeah.
You throw the fast and the word guru in there, and all of a sudden I'm selling a $40,000 course, and you don't have to do any work, and also you're going to get really skinny, and I don't know.
Yeah. That's good.
Oh man, how you doing today?
I'm doing good.
Yeah,
about yourself?
Looking good. We out here in Hawaii now. Loving the weather, and just wanted to give our flowers to you and thank you for giving the time to come on the show. Corey, Garcia, doing BootzToSuits. We're kind of in the same realm, I feel like, just making sure we can take care of veterans out there and get them some insight in case they decide to move forward with the business aspects, anything like that. So thank you so much for blessing us today.
No, it's a pleasure. This is going to be fun. I love it. We were talking right before we started recording. I loved my time in Oahu, and I'm jealous of your backdrop. I miss it out there. One of these days, I'm going to be back. So
that'd be awesome. If you come, then we'll just do it in person. Do it down. See how it's going on. All right, thanks.
Hey, yeah. So David, tell us a little bit of for the few people that may not know who you are. Give us a little bit of your background and what you have going on. And how you got to here today.
Yeah, I mean, the short version, right, is I joined the Marine Corps in 2008. I didn't have money for school, didn't know what to study, and Marine Corps seemed like a good way to get out of Arkansas without having a lot of money. Got to have some adventures, travel the world. And in 2015, I was on recruiting duty working some crazy hours, and I realized I didn't necessarily want to work those hours all my entire life, and I didn't have any money. And someone handed me the book Rich Dad Poor Dad and was like, you should read this. Told them I don't read. So they gave me a disc, They were like, here, listen to it in your car while you drive. I was like, they got me. All right, fine. And man, it stuck. Within 3 or 4 months, I mean, I'd listened to that, and then I got Audible. I started listening to books on, audio, and I'd listened to half the Purple Library of Robert Kiyosaki, and then found Bigger Pockets, and I bought a duplex, and I lived in one half and rented the next. And the compressed version of the story is I just kept buying a bunch of real estate, and between that and in 2018, I kind of just started a blog documenting what I was learning, and that also took off. That was from militarytomillionaire.com, and the military millionaire community also took off, and between that and the real estate, in 21, I was able to, I had $1 million net worth, and I was able to walk away from the Marine Corps and pay somebody almost equivalent to what my base salary was to be my assistant, take over a lot of the admin tasks. And so far, been out about 1.5 years and haven't had to take a W-2, and things seem to be going all right. So that's the long short.
That's definitely a success story right there in short, man. So I don't know how you broke that down, but you made it look that fast. That's why I said that fast, because I've read your bio and talked to a few people. That's why I said that. So, but it's nothing fast. It requires a lot of work, a lot of discipline, a lot of commitment. So, again, thank you for your service to our country. And we definitely want to give you our BootzToSuits Medal of Honor in regards to that, for everything you're doing in the uniform and now out the uniform to make the community better and show them how that path.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it was a lot of early mornings, late nights, and weekends, but it's been fun.
Yeah.
Definitely. I want to ask you the same question I ask all my guests. What was it in the military that you think helped you be successful? What attributes did you get out of the military that helped you to be successful in your business?
This is like my favorite answer ever, because I think I'm the only person who says it. And I say it tongue-in-cheek, but I think it really is one of the best things that the military does for any veteran who's looking to start a business. So how in the military, we have this phrase, right? Hurry up and wait.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we know it well.
And yeah, and you know how like you're used to getting paid for like the set amount, and then you're like in your head when you're in high school or you join, you're like, cool, I'm gonna work like 40, 50 hours a week, and I'm gonna do this thing, and it's gonna be great. And then like you're in the military, and all of a sudden you're like, why am I getting told I got to be there at 3 a.m. tomorrow? Why am I getting told I got to come in on Saturday? Why am I working a 24-hour post? What the heck am I? So you get used to like essentially working for free. Because you're just like, what the crap am I doing here? All these extra hours, and we're not even doing anything. This is BS.
Right.
Well, that's basically what starting a business is like, except you're doing it for yourself. And so it's like you spent 4 or 5 years in the military basically working for free on the weekends or early mornings for Uncle Sam. And now it's like, where most businesses fall apart is that I call it the BMW phase, below minimum wage.
Oh, wow.
And
I'm using it.
there you go. And now you're doing the same thing, trying to build this business, and instead of falling apart, you're like, well, at least I'm doing it for me, so yeah, it's at least enjoyable. And so where a lot of people just quit because they're like, this isn't making any money, it's not working. For whatever reason, service members are just like, like at least there's a goal at the end. Like it doesn't seem to bother them as much. And everyone knows consistency is all it really takes to get to where you want to go long term. You just keep going.
Yes.
And I feel like we're uniquely positioned to be able to just suck it up and keep going. Yes. Or we're just dumb. I don't know, but
yes. But I like the condition part, and that I never looked at it from that point of view, right? Because I done did a lot of overnight watches, a lot of weekends, and having a small business myself. I just fell into that same trap. Like, man, going in on the weekends, my business, but I did it for the military, right? I like that. That you done re kind of organize how I look at things now. So I gotta check myself because I've done it, 30 years. I did that, so thank you. Yeah, that was a great answer. And I think it's going to resonate with a lot of people that listens to that.
Yeah. Cause you think about it, the buzzword of, consistency, you got to be committed, but being a service member, that is the ultimate level of commitment, because there's a lot of things that we don't have just the luxury of waking up to and saying, hey, I'm going to do this today. But in some things like go do this, and like, why the hell am I doing this? And like you said, on Saturday and whatever. So yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah.
So I take it from the date you gave, you didn't retire?
No. Technically, funny story. I think technically I'm still in the Marine Corps Reserve. I did what's called the IMA, which is like individual Marine augmentee. Basically, instead of doing like the reserves where you do 1 week every month and 2 months a year or a summer, you have to do 30 days once a year. So that can be 1 month every quarter, 2 months, or two weeks, or 1 week every quarter, 2 weeks twice a year, or 30 days, 1 month, every year. And I got out October of 21, and I went in for 10 days in December of 21. And when I was done with the 10 days, I was like, I turned it in, and they were like, oh, actually, your year for this to count as a good year actually in the reserves doesn't start until when you went to MEPS. So these 10 days, your year was already good for your active duty time. So these 10 days actually just counted. You got paid for them, but your year didn't start till March. So these don't count towards next year. You'll have to start your 30 days in March. And I was like, oh, well, that's frustrating. But and then I was like, cool, well, I have until March then of 23 to get my 30 days in.
Right.
And then I basically never heard from my command again. And I got promoted during that time, and they still haven't made my warrant, and they didn't invite me to the Marine Corps ball. And I've been like calling them like, yo, when do you guys want me to come drill? And like, they haven't sent me a letter that says I'm not in the reserves anymore, but they haven't let me come drill. And I'm just like, I got promoted, but you don't want me. So I have no idea if I'm still in the reserves or not, but I definitely didn't retire on active duty. That's for sure. So apparently I'm a gunny now, but I don't know.
Oh, wow.
So I asked you that, right? One of the main reasons, because you have a lot of people that's like on the fence, that was that sweet spot, that 10-year mark, right? And it seems like you went over that 10-year mark before you decided 13, right? And that's a big deal, because you said at 13 years, I'm not going to go the full route. I'm not going to do the 7 to get that what everybody wants, right? The golden age, the 20 years, I got this check, rest of my life, regardless, right? So what was that? I know you did some thought process behind this. What was that puts you like, okay, I'm okay with what I'm getting ready to do at 13 years, not get to retirement, do the reserves, maybe work out a dough. But what was that put you over that hump to say, this is not going to be a chapter in my life. I'm going toward business.
Ironically, it's a whole chapter in my book pretty much about this decision process, because it was, I wrestled with it for a long time. And ultimately it really came down to fulfillment for me. And it wasn't, so a lot of people, I think it's more of a financial decision than anything else. And so they haven't put themselves in a situation where they're comfortable getting out. And so they stay. And I don't want to say that that's the only reason people stay, because a lot of people love it, right? But unfortunately, I think there's a lot of service members who would probably lean towards getting out if they had a level of financial security where they felt comfortable doing so, and they don't, so they stay. I was financially secure, and so the decision for me was purely based on, fulfillment and where I felt like I was called or whatever. And you're right, it was definitely 12, 13 years, I'm at the cusp of everything becoming easier. For me, it was, I joined for the travel and adventure, and I realized, I haven't left the country in 10 years. The war is over, and I'm getting promoted, and the Marine Corps does this fun thing where if you're good at your job, they don't send you anywhere. They're like, oh, there's two of you, and one of you gets to go to Dubai, and one of you gets to stay here in case the CG needs something.
Yeah.
We're sending the better one here for the CG, because we don't want we want the good one to be here in case the CG needs something.
Right,
and
right.
The one that not necessarily bad, but isn't as good, quote unquote, is going to go to Dubai. Even though, like, in our case, the two of us were both studs, but it was like just a little bit maybe better at PowerPoint and CGing. This guy, and the other one's, whatever. He gets to go to Dubai. I get stuck in the office, and I was just looking around. I'm like, dude, I haven't even gone on the rifle range in 2 years. Like, I haven't shot a rifle in 2 years. Well, I haven't left this office. I'm working in a windowless vault at like a 3-star command. And I'm like, I don't even have my cell phone during the day. This is just not fun anymore, And had I been able to deploy or train or just work with like Marines again, I mean, I was in an office where, as a staff sergeant, and now gunny, I mean, I was, at E6, E7 level. I had one Marine or two under me in rank, and a mass sergeant, a master gunnery sergeant, and a whole bunch of majors and lieutenant colonels. And it's like, hey, staff sergeant, go take out the trash. Like, that's the kind of office I was in. I'm like, this is not. It's time to move on. And it's, so for me, that was the final straw. But I think for a lot of people, when you're at that point, I think it really just comes down to your leadership in that specific unit. Unfortunately, I think we get to a place where people stay in because they don't have other options more than because they love what they do, and it shows in their leadership. And so then when you get guys like me or you or other successful people who would be great assets to the military, well, those people have options elsewhere. Yeah. And so those are the people you want to stay, but they're also the ones who are going to leave if the leadership's not quality. So it's a weird,
It is a weird dynamic of how that play. Even for that one service member that's coming straight out of high school into this, and have that right level of maturity coming into it, they actually grow even faster. It's accelerated, especially when they're right around the right level of leadership. And those individuals like Corey and I, we got mentored at the right time and got exposed to other opportunities and investments and everything else. What do you think of like some three or four things that a brand new person coming into the military can, along with trying to learn their trade in the military, can do to start setting themselves up as a adult in adulting?
Well, I think one of the first things is I always tell everybody, like, the moment you join, you should be at least contributing 5, if not 10%, to your TSP. I hate when I hear people, say the TSP is not, or the thrift savings plan is not a place that you should be. I mean, anyone joining the military now, there's a 5% matching contribution, right? So, math in public says that 5% that is automatically matched by the government, 100% is worth doing. Like there's no other place that I know of where you're going to get 100% matching guarantee by the government, right? So that seems like a win. I mean, there's no investment you can tell me where it's like, oh, I have to take a 50% hit to break even on this. All right. Like that seems like a win. So I always tell people, like, all right, the first thing you should do is at least set that up. No matter what else you do, at least that's a good idea. It's interesting because the military it puts people in such a crazy situation where most people who join don't have a lot of debt, especially if they're coming out of high school. I mean, some people do, and they have the Service Member Civil Relief Act where they get to lower their interest rates to 6% or whatever, and all that stuff. But most people who join don't have a lot of debt. They're coming out of high school or whatever, so they don't have much, if any, debt.
Right.
And then they have their food and housing and medical and dental and everything else covered. So they're basically financially free when they join the military. And then it's like you have to, they all like go out of their way to throw it away. They're like, oh man, instead of taking my paycheck that I don't even need because I could walk to work and I could eat at the chow hall and I could take all of this and invest it 100% and just save it and invest it, and just not touch any of it and be totally financially free in 4 years. Let me go buy a car I can't afford and get hammered and a bunch of tattoos and go live like a playboy and get into tons of debt.
Right.
And so I would just say, like, don't buy things on credit. Don't go out of your way to spend your entire paycheck. Just put a piece of it away every month before you spend everything else. Like, decide what that is. Maybe that's $200 or $300 every month that you just stick away somewhere. Even if you don't know what to do with it yet, just put it somewhere where you're not going to touch it. Yeah. And then go blow the rest of it. Go have fun with that. Like, go live your life, but put some of it away before you do. And when you figure out what to do with it down the road, at least you'll have it. I think if you can do like those two things, you'll be so much better off than everybody else because you're in a good spot when you join the military. Just don't make the major mistakes. Don't go buy a stupid car. I love cars. Just buy a normal one though.
Right.
A really nice one later.
Yeah, and that's a great point because, and that's a great way to think about it. You come in debt free and until you get exposed to life and adulting and other individuals in your circle that's sitting here saying, hey, we should go get this car. Hey, we should go out to the club. Hey, let's do it again tonight. And next thing you know, your bank account just went from hundreds or something to 10 or 0 real fast. And when one is too close to none and you have no money, if you don't know anything, you haven't even been exposed to the knowledge of multiple streams of income, creating, using your skills to create other ways of income. It's just that mentoring from day one. And I think, as individuals like yourself that see that delta, that gap and put programs together. So, what have been some of your experiences now that you're on the other side of it? You're teaching people about real estate. What have been some of the first topics that you enter in the real estate realm of it all for someone new investor?
Oh, and I guess one last piece on the other thing, just because this is something that'll help the tip or trick for the 20, 21, 22-year-old dude that I used to do that I think, man, be a DD. You want the fast car and the really fun evenings and whatever without breaking the bank. Find the guy with the cool car, DD for him so you get to drive the thing. And most bars and clubs will give you free drinks all night if you're the DD. So you get to go. They'll buy your food. You're not paying for gas. The guys you're going with will buy your food. The bars and clubs will give you free drinks. You'll have better conversations with the girls because you're sober. You'll remember them. They'll give you real numbers instead of fake numbers. You get to drive the car back home, and you remember the night, and then you get to do all the things again. Just saying. So,
some telling me this is kind of personal, but I'm gonna go ahead and just say this came off the dome for you. But okay, that's a pretty valid point.
Save some money. So I used to do that all the time. It was much better time than saved so much money and also had a good time. So I got to drive some cool cars. So, but anyway, so. First, initial real estate conversations, man, there's a ton, right? I feel like the biggest hurdle I face is just trying to convince people that the VA loan is the best product out there because, for whatever reason, there's all these stigmas that it's not the best loan. And, agents or lenders they don't understand it because they don't spend the time learning it. And then they go and say like, oh, it's not competitive. And it's like, well, you don't know how to use it. You don't know how to make your offers competitive. And the reality is that there's not a better product out there. There just isn't. And then I would tell people that house hacking is the single best strategy you could possibly use for getting started for a lot of ways and reasons. And house hacking, for anyone who doesn't know, is like you buy a duplex, a triplex, a fourplex, you live in one unit and rent the others, or you could buy like if you're like a young lieutenant or captain and you're single, you buy like a 5 or 6 bedroom house and rent all the other bedrooms out to other single officers. There's a couple different ways to do it, but we'll stick with like the fourplex example. And so let's say we'll use $1 million fourplex because everyone gets scared when you talk big numbers. And if each unit is renting for $2,000 a month, then that means the other 3 units rent for $6,000. Your mortgage on that thing's probably $6,000. Maybe $7,000. It depends on interest rates.
Right.
Back when rates were low, it would have been $5,000. Now it's probably $6,500, $7,000. So let's say $7,000.
Right.
So if you make $6,000 in rent, costs $7,000 a month, you're out of pocket $1,000 plus interest, tax, or plus utilities, right? So it's probably out of pocket $2,000 after you factor everything, maybe $1,500. But you're probably out of pocket that exact same amount even if you rented that place.
Yeah.
And so let's say you break even on what you would have been paying for rent. Well, that $7,000 a month is probably paying down $2,500 a month in principal into your mortgage. So really, your entire rent payment is now just going into equity. You're still coming out on top. Plus, you're learning how to be a landlord. You're getting depreciation. You're getting appreciation. You're getting all these other benefits. Over time, that rent's going to go up. When you move out, now it's rented for $8,000 instead of over a $7,000 mortgage, and you're not paying utilities at all. It's just one of those things where there's all those benefits, and then you could even, to get really crazy, in the unit that you're living in, you could rent to roommates for $250, $500 a room, and now you're actually cash flowing or living for free while you live there. I've seen this happen in any market, every market, all over the country, and it works, and it's incredible.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I will tell you this, me being just retired, Garcia, he's on the cusp of being retired. I will tell you, I see smarter sailors and soldiers and airmen than I did, 30 years ago when I came in, right? Everything you're saying, I've had these conversations with, my E4. He's like, oh, sir, yeah, I got a property and I'm renting it out, and it's just like, it warms my heart because it's podcasts, it's books, it's us giving back so they know like these things is there, because, when I came up, none of these cars, these were like the 06s, 05s. They did things like this, but, felt as enlisted. I can't buy no house. I can't do this. But like you said, you hit it. That VA loan is money. I know that personally. I'm a loan officer and I do mortgages, and it's easy to talk VA, especially. I got a VA loan. I'm like, yeah, this is going to close. The only stringent with VA loans is sometimes, they have more. Your house got to be in certain shape, right? It's hard to really flip houses with a VA loan, but if you just want to go ahead and buy and get that quadplex and triplex and things that you're talking about, good condition, VA's like, yeah, we back you, let's go. And people don't understand 20% and not paying that insurance is a game changer. So thank you for definitely pointing that out. Yeah, you're right. I agree with you, and Joe Garcia agree with you.
Oh yeah,
yes, thank you.
So tell us a little bit about your book. What inspired you to want to write your book?
I mean, ego. No.
Fair.
I thought. I mean, part of it. Yeah, I thought it'd be cool to say I wrote a book, right? But part of it was because I failed an English class senior year in high school, and I wanted to stick it to the fact to that. I mean, that's the deep dark whatever. But the reality is, I wanted a single place where I could tell people like this is everything I wish I'd known when I joined, right? And I wrote it kind of. It's written chronologically, or like the best I could, right? Where it's like, hey, this is kind of an intro to me, and then like the first chapter's on like the thrift savings plan, and then after that, it kind of goes through. I mean, it talks through everything from like ways to get promoted, or things that'll make your career awesome, or great B billets, or when you're looking at being a drill instructor or recruiter. Obviously, there's Marine Corps in it because that's where I was, but. And then transitioning out of the military, VA claims, which obviously if I ever do another revision, I should update because I did that as I was filing my VA claim. But I've learned a lot.
You've learned a lot, huh?
Freaking VA. Yeah. Man, I'll tell you, there is nothing more fun than like dealing with the VA about their not to totally derail the conversation, but when you're looking at your disability claim, mind you, I got blown up in 2010. I have a hearing aid because of it. And I'm looking at it, and their criteria for what qualifies for hearing loss is spelled out, and below it is your results. And it's like, okay, I not only meet all of the minimum standard, but the average hearing loss, I'm like, I meet if one ear is this, you're qualified, and my average is worse than the one ear, right? So I'm like, oh, okay, cool, qualified. And then below it's like, not service connected, and then below that it's like, here's proof that it is service connected, and the proof is attached. And I'm like, what? Like, denied. I'm like, how is this denied? There's whatever. So like reading the VA stuff, I'm like, you gave me a hearing aid for this, and you're saying I'm not whatever. Like, all right. So we go back to the VA. Like, how is this the thing? Like,
yeah,
nincompoops. But
yeah.
So I would probably revamp some things about, hey, you should actually like use a professional for this instead of doing what I did and thinking you could do it yourself. Because that's like a whole year fighting the VA.
There you go.
Because you're like,
there you go.
So painful.
Yes.
Anyway, but and then of course, like a third of it is about real estate and the VA loan and everything. But it's basically like, man, I wish somebody like this is all the stuff that I wish someone had just handed me the day I joined the Corps.
Yeah, yeah. So what about your students? How is that set up now that, your community, your students? So just tell me how that path is. So someone that's interested in connecting with you, learning about brand new to real estate, want to be a millionaire, either in active duty or, separating, coming to you. How's that? What's that journey look like?
Yeah, we've got, a lot of different options, right? Most of what I do, free content, right? We got the podcast, and YouTube channel, Facebook groups, all this stuff. Facebook groups got 55,000 people in it right now, and the community's got 250,000 people across all platforms. It's growing, and tons of free content. And then, we've got the book, we've got a 90-day planner, we've got a course called From Zero to One, which is just an easy, like, hey, if you're looking to get into your first deal, online course. We've got an online course on finding off-market deals because I did some wholesaling and house flipping for a while, so I built a course around that. I've got a course on, building a referral business as a real estate agent because I've built a 6-figure referral business.
Wow.
But those are all cool little like digital products. The crown jewel of the community, so to speak, is the War Room Mastermind, which is we've got 205 members, I think, right now, which is it's not super expensive. I think it's $150 a month or $1,000 a year, and it's we do a guest speaker on Saturdays, an Ask Me Anything like office hours on Thursday nights, accountability groups. So you get broken into like a 6 to 8 person squad of accountability group. So basically 3 calls a week. 1 is small group accountability. 2 are either me running a question and answer, or we bring in guest speakers and do breakout sessions and stuff like that. And then tons of content. So on top of that, we just had like a 6-week masterclass on wholesaling. We're about to do a masterclass on short-term rentals, following that up with a masterclass on like syndications. I'm doing Monday calls on creative financing that I just started for probably the next 3 or 4 months. And so we roll out content, and that's not a niche specific group. It's everything and everyone. I'm not the big player in that group. We've got everything from, I've got the founder of Seven Figure Flipping, or the owner of Seven Figure Flipping is in that group. We got a couple guys in that group who are worth, I think at this point, the big player in the group is worth $26 million in all seller financed mobile home parks. And then everything from like, I'm doing my first deal to about that place. All service members and vets. That's the only thing I do that we don't allow anyone else in.
That's pretty cool. You know, it's crazy how we always talk about you have to be in the room. You know, you can't be scared to be in the room, because a lot of, David has a ton of knowledge, but being in the room of a community just like that,
that has to be something that you have to take on board. Like, wow, I'm here.
Exactly. And the collabs.
It's crazy, because I always said at the beginning, I'm like, hey, this is not a place where you come expecting to do deals with people. And then it's like every week people are doing deals together. We just fell out of contract, unfortunately, but I was under contract with 8 guys on a mobile home park last week, and 6 of them are in the room. And I'm like, I'm telling people, like, don't come expecting deals to happen, but they'll happen. I'm like, looking at this thing, I'm like, 6 of the 8 of us are in the room. All right.
Well, that's a no-brainer. You have like-minded people in a room, that's gonna happen. So just don't, like you said, don't expect it. I know you've mentored people. I know a lot of people come to you and ask you questions. Give me 3 things that you would say has been the biggest mistakes people have made that you've kind of gave them advice on.
That's a good way to phrase that. I like that question. Biggest mistakes. Yeah, I think the one of the biggest mistakes I'm going to say is actually related to people coming to ask for mentorship. And that is, people will come and ask to pick your brain or whatever, right? I guess it's twofold, right? The whole, like, they ask that. Yeah, they ask that, and they've not done any homework, and so they like go and they finally get a hold of you and they get your attention, and then the questions they ask, it's like, bro, if you'd done like even like the simplest search on my content, your answer would have been found. Like, you should have saved your question for like saved your reach for, like, reach out for like a legitimate question. Like, do a little homework and find a good question, because now I know you didn't do any homework, and so you're just wasting my time. Right. But the real follow up on that is, like, let's say you get a hold of me or you guys or somebody that you're looking up to, and you want their advice on something, and you get a hold of them and you pick their brain and ask their advice, and they're kind enough or whatever, or just cornered, but they give it to you, right? And then you run into them a year later, 6 months later, and they ask you how it's going, or you ask them to pick their brain again or whatever, and they ask you how it went. If you didn't do the thing they told you, done. Like, it doesn't matter. Nothing matters anymore. You're not getting it again. Sorry. So there's nothing worse than being asked to pick your brain, or asking for advice, or asking for feedback. And, if you tried and it didn't work, cool. But if you didn't implement, like, the reason I'm friends and my network is big with a lot of people is the number of times someone's like, just subtly like mentioned I should try something, and then like the next week I text them like, hey dude, look, check this thing out. And the feedback that I get from that about, wow, that was quick or whatever, it goes a long way. So that's mistake number 1, is just like, dude, if you're going to ask someone for something, take action on it immediately and show them that you took action on what they recommended. Kind of plays into number 2, and this is like my big thing lately. People don't filter the lens that they take advice from. And so what I mean by that is, the best example I've been given lately is, let's say one of you wants to become a UFC fighter, right? That's your goal. You want to be the best fighter in the octagon. Your mom's probably loves you, right? But she's probably never fought in the MMA. And so you're probably not going to go to your mom and be like, yo, you want to coach me?
Right. It won't work out.
Yeah, you're going to find the Gracie brothers for BJJ, and you're going to find a Ray Longo for striking, and you're going to find legitimate coaches, and you're going to go hire coaches. And yet, for some reason, when you get into real estate, you're like, man, I really want to get into real estate investing. And the moment your mom, who's never owned a house or never bought a rental property is like, ooh, I heard that's bad. Don't do that. You're like, oh, okay. Instead of going and either paying to get around people who are successful or talking to people who are successful in that niche. So like, even if it's like Elon Musk, who owns, Tesla, talking to you about UFC, they might have your best interest at heart, but if they haven't achieved success in the area that you're wanting to achieve success, they don't have the life that you want in that realm, then filter the advice that way. That's not the person you listen to in that specific that area. I don't know if that
don't take relationship advice from somebody that's single type thing, right?
Yeah, I've had some rocks in the relationship over the last year or two, and I finally had to tell myself that I needed to stop going to the guys who've been divorced to ask questions.
There you go. So
there you go.
Maybe people could resonate with that better.
Yeah.
Trying to say. Okay. And what was your third?
Oh yeah, there we go. Third, man, I think the third is just people get stuck in that analysis paralysis, and that's hard for a lot of people to get out of, but you just gotta.
I'm taking that.
Yeah, you just gotta take action, right? And even if that's little bits of action, you don't have to like go all in right away, and you shouldn't take risks that could ruin you, and you shouldn't. There's a lot of things that you have to do that don't ruin yourself trying to go all in on it, but you need to be willing to take the next step every day. And if you just sit there and you just get stuck in the what ifs, like, situation's never going to change.
Right. And it's funny, I'm sure you've experienced this too as a coach and consultant and everything, what you do in your industry. We tell our clients and students and stuff like, look, you have to take the step. You have to believe in you. The inner leadership in you is what you have to do, that mental fortitude to sit here and say, okay, I don't know, I'm stepping in a dark room. I don't know what's in this room, but I know what's on the other side, but I have to go through this room. Stop thinking about it. Stop thinking about what might be there. Take the step, because your coach, your consultant, your mentor is not going to advise you wrong. And some of these programs, you see some of these individuals that go and spend a lot of money just obsessed with buying courses and get 10% the way in, and then they'll buy another course and never make any movement. So, and I'm sure that it has to be is a challenge for you, because you're passionate about wanting to see everybody win. So, what would you say is one thing that if you could give them advice, someone that's having that kind of way of wanting constantly a habitual course buyer, what would you say on that, in that regards of taking action?
Stop buying different courses. My buddy Adam just posted about this, actually, and he was like, just pick one and go all in. Mm-hmm. And shiny object syndrome, it's real for sure, but I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing per se. I mean, so there's that phrase, right? Everybody always says of course now I'm gonna jack of all trades, master of none, but they always forget the back half, which is oftentimes better than a master of one. And I think that there is, I know a lot of successful people who have their fingers in a lot of things.
Yeah.
And so I don't think it's necessarily bad to branch, but I don't know that any of those people branched first. And so I would say you gotta build something. And then once you've built something, then you can branch. Yeah. So like, I've got a brand, and off of that brand, I've got 6 or 7 things that I run, right? So off the Military Millionaire brand, I've got a referral platform and a mastermind and some coaching and some courses and some this and some that and some whatevers. And then I've got real estate investing, and it all kind of somehow intertwines. Okay. And from there, if I really wanted to, I could probably jump into this or jump into that or jump into whatever. But that's different than if I had said, man, I'm going to get into real estate and this. and this and this, and I'm going to start wholesaling and syndication at the exact same time.
Right.
You know, and I've done a little bit of both, but not because I decided to do both, but just over time, you know? And so I would just tell people essentially, like, there's not necessarily anything wrong with what you're doing, but you should definitely pick whichever one excites you the most and just tune everything else out until you've gone in enough on it to achieve success.
Go all in.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I like that. I appreciate that. Those are the key nuggets. You know, folks, I hope you took note of that and you know, replay this episode again, because that's a major gem right there. When you can sit here and just take the step to focus on one path and let it open up. Stop going 5 different industries, just talking about multi streams of income. If you become a master at one, you can branch out to the many. So that's great. David, so I think you're a birthday guy coming up here really soon.
Tuesday.
Okay. So, and then I see you're promoting some things, some ways to give to the community. Do you want to talk about that at all?
I mean, yeah, we ran my team thought we were giving away the digital version of my planner, because I guess that's the thing. I launched my planner 2 months ago, and a couple people were like, "Oh, what about the PDF? Like a fillable PDF?" I was like, "People use that? That's so weird to me. I like handwriting." And then one of my buddies was like, "Oh, we should have like a 99-cent thing at the beginning of our funnel," because I don't know, I'm trying to learn how funnels work. Okay. And I was like, well, if we're going to do some crazy discount on one of my courses, why don't we just discount it to 33 cents? Because I'm charging 33 on Tuesday, and we'll do it at a birthday sale. And man, that thing worked crazy. We had, I don't know, like 109, 110 sales in like 12 hours, and then you know, all these people opting into the email list and stuff. And I was like, wow, I guess I should just not sell my silly course ever again at full price. But obviously then it wouldn't be a sale. But it's pretty funny. So no, you know, if I was gonna say anything, man, I would you know, I always have the copy, right? So the actual book, the OBS Guide to Military Life. Nice. And whenever I come on podcasts, I just like to give it away. I have a PDF version of it that people can download for free, and I actually just created a really funny URL. So if any of your guests wanted to go to thebestpodcastguest.com, they could download it for free. So
okay, well, you got it, folks. You got it. You know, and that another BZ to you for, you know, doing that. So, folks, we'll put all the information in the show notes for that ebook. And, you know, as we sit here and taper down here, what are 3 books that you would recommend to our audience to get started either in real estate or becoming a entrepreneur, business owner, and taking that step like you did and become successful?
You know, I mean, Rich Dad Poor Dad was the one that got me started.
Yeah,
that one's got to be said. The 4-hour work week is one that was huge for me.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I think especially for service members, because it really helped me reframe. People in a W-2 are like really good at figuring out how to work like the least amount of work done to just make it to the end of the day without getting fired. And if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you got to figure out how to do the most amount of work in the least amount of time. So you really got to flip that script. And that book's really good. And there's so many ways you can go for books. One that really helped me this year and last was a book by Michael Hyatt called Free to Focus. And it's basically just a book on how to clear your schedule and set your schedule up so that you can block things off and just clear time so that you can actually get stuff done and focus. And I think for me, those are where I struggle, right? And so the 4-hour work week and Free to Focus really changed the game for me. But if you're talking, you know, real estate and business, no, you know what? I'm going to stick with those. I think time management, you know, you can learn everything else as you go, but if you can't manage your time, it's not going to matter.
No, that's great. And you're exactly right. Time management is critical because you got to give yourself time to even study that craft or network with the people who do know what they're about real estate to even be able to implement anything and take action like you mentioned. So I think we can't close out no better than that. David, thank you so much for being on the Boots to Suits podcast. This was a pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, it's funny. I'm looking on the back, the BS in there.
Yeah,
At Boots, you just need to put a 2 in the middle of that, and we'll have yeah, there you go. So it's a great partnership in that one to deliver some awesome information. So, hey, brother, thank you again. This was awesome, and go out and purchase that special that he has right now, and happy birthday to you there, brother.
Well, thank you very much, and thanks for having me, guys.
All right.
No, definitely. If you don't mind, do you have a page that has a link to everything that you, all your book, your business, and podcasts and stuff like that? Like, if you don't mind, if you do, can you go ahead and let our listeners know how they can get to you?
Yeah, it's the same link, that thebestpodcastguest.com.
Okay.
It's the free PDF download, and then below it has like my
Got it.
social media and a link to the podcast. Yeah.
Okay, got it. All right, you heard it here first. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I learned a lot, and I appreciate you coming on the show. Again, if you're ever out in Hawaii, I love to do this podcast in person. And just tell us the update. I'm sure the next time we talk to you, you're already in 7 figures. Let's talk to you again when you get to 8, which look like you're well on your way.
All right.
I would like that.
All right. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank
you guys have a good one.
All right.